Welcome to episode number 279, where I'm speaking with my client, Karo, about her journey with Ayurveda and how it has spanned the decades. She takes us through her healing journey and how Ayurveda has influenced her life and how she continues on her journey with Ayurveda today. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. This episode is sponsored by Mount Madonna Institute, and throughout this episode today, you will be hearing a testimonial recording from a recent graduate.
Namaste. My name is Anna, and I live in the Chicago area. First learned about Ayurveda in my YTT 200 training, and that's when my love of Ayurveda began. I wanted to dive deeper into classical Ayurveda, and I soon discovered Mount Madonna.
Since 1978, Mount Madonna Institute has offered yoga teacher trainings. The College of Ayurveda launched in 2006 with a mission to educate and train future health professionals and empower them to use Ayurveda to transform individual health and community well-being. Mount Madonna specializes in integrating classical knowledge of Ayurveda and modern knowledge of allopathic Western medicine. To learn more about these programs, visit mountmadonnainstitute.org and receive a $200 discount on 3 programs starting in September 2023 by using the code ELEMENTS at checkout. You can find all those details in the show notes. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome one of my clients who has been so kind to share her journey with Ayurveda, and her name is Karo. Karo, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Colette. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your story. So let's start with a little introduction. Please, Karo, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved from Germany to New York City about 30 years ago, and I've lived here since. I studied fashion design, and I've been working in fashion as a designer, as a stylist, etc. Every kind of job I could get. I've been mostly freelance, and since about 7 years, I work for a major German fashion magazine, and it's a part-time job. So I am now also so lucky to be studying Ayurveda on the side.
Yeah, I love that has become part of your journey. So let's rewind a little bit. Thank you for that introduction. Let's rewind about how did you discover Ayurveda in the first place?
It's strange to say, but somebody gave me 2 books about Ayurveda in the 90s for Christmas. We are discussing in the family if it was my mom or my sister. Nobody knows anymore, but everybody remembers that I devoured those books and literally went into a corner and just couldn't be taken out of the books. And for me, it was like an aha moment. It made complete sense. I was like, where has that been all my life? Kind of feeling. Yeah, that was like the initial introduction. And then my sister had very serious health issues, in the 90s. And then a couple years later, followed by me, I had a cyst with a little benign tumor on my ovary. I needed surgery as well. And my mom literally freaked out that her daughters were going through serious health issues and gifted us 3 together a panchakarma in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
And that kind of pulled the Ayurvedic journey together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you got to go to Sri Lanka and do Panchakarma. When was that?
That was in January of 2001.
Okay, great. And did you do that with your sister?
With my sister and my mother. Yeah.
Oh,
The
that's
three
wonderful.
of us together.
Gosh, that's
It
amazing.
was very luxurious.
Mm.
And that really clicked for me even more, because all my sort of chronic problems came to surface. And so I've had eczema or dermatitis since I was a baby. And that just came out of the skin. I had tensions in my neck and shoulders that just got worse. And I had severe menstrual problems, PMS mostly. And so that all came to the surface. But after I left Sri Lanka, everything was perfect for years to come. No symptoms. It just slowly started getting back in.
Okay. And so it was great to have that initial experience of a panchakarma, because I think you learned so much in that process of cleansing the body, right? That you reset everything. And as you said, your body was in balance for quite a few years after that. And then we connected in January 2022.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And when you signed up for the group cleanse, the January group cleanse.
Exactly. So in early 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then COVID hit. And so this extra time, my personal health problem, got me back into Ayurveda, and I discovered your podcast, Colette. And so I spent a lot of hours listening to your podcast, and it just kind of, I didn't do it chronological. I just hit play here and there. And at one point, I just want to make sure that I've listened to every single episode, because there's so many now. And so that's how I got back into Ayurveda. I had the time. I lost one of my jobs. So I had the time. I focused on myself and my own health. And by the end of 21, my sister said, "Hey, I can loan you some money so you can study Ayurveda. You always wanted to do it. Why wait any longer?" And I wasn't even aware that I had uttered it out loud so much.
Yeah.
But my sister knows me very well. So while I was researching for schools, I heard your cleanse episode, or one of your cleanse episodes, and it's like, let me just start with that. It's a mini panchakarma at home. It's in January, when it's fairly quiet and hibernating. It's like this kind of hibernation for me, where I don't have to go outside. We were hitting COVID once again in New York. So it was the perfect timing. And yeah. So,
yeah. And I know it was right before your busy season, right? The fashion season in New York. So when I met you in January, when we had the 90-minute consultation, I know there was some concerns with, stress and just poor eating from the holidays, right? And then waking in the early hours of the morning, things like that. And what was your experience on that first cleanse? Because it had been how many years then since you did the panchakarma?
20 years, basically.
Oh my goodness.
Because January 2001 and January 2021.
Wow.
Anniversary. Yes, absolutely. It was perfect. I think part of what Ayurveda is of course building a routine, and that's very hard if you're just sliding in and out of it. So this cleanse gave me the format, basically, to just focus on a routine, focus on my sleep, focus on where I have my meals, and focus on just being with my body, let's say, not so remote controlled around the city. So it was a perfect experience. I loved it.
Great.
And I've implemented a lot of things from that cleanse last year into my daily routine. Yeah, certain things, of course, drop to the side.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It is a journey. And I find that when people go through the first cleanse, it's really, it's a new to the experience. I know you had that previous panchakarma, but it's this cleanse is really about implementing self-care, mindfulness, morning, evening routines into your life. So it's not just a cleanse. It's really educational and all about, I want to empower you to take care of yourself going forward as well. And it's very normal after that first cleanse that things drop off. And then you find people get to a point where, oh, I'm not feeling good, maybe months later. And they're like, okay, I remember how good I felt on that cleanse. So I want to repeat it and, and get back to that place. And then there's the second time around, there can be real investment in it. And like, okay, I don't want to go that far out of balance again. And this time I really want to implement these practices. And I know you really enjoyed cooking in the first cleanse. I remember I
always enjoy cooking anyways, but I never cook with a cookbook. So I go to a farmer's market, I pick what I feel eating, and I cook very, very simple. I'm not somebody I can make stews and soups that cook for a little while and like chicken soups from scratch, but I usually steamed vegetables, some rice, the occasional meat. So it's nice to go back with like certain recipes to just focus on a recipe. So, and the recipes were delicious. So enjoyed them a lot.
Good.
No complaints there.
That's good. And that's important for me. I always check in the consultation with people. It's like, do you like these spices? Do you like these tastes? Because I really want to make sure people are not eating something they don't enjoy, because I do feel that if you're forcing yourself to eat something, it's not going to have a positive effect on your body. It's all about the emotions that we have when we're eating something. So it really has to be not only nourishing, but also appealing. And then after your first cleanse, then you went on, or you did the Daily Habits program to get some more education. And that I have designed to kind of as a follow-up, because I want, again, to empower people to keep these new habits in place and also to go more on that journey about how to become your own healer.
Correct. Yes. And I always think that it takes some time to implement these routines. And so I literally the first cleanse, then the daily habits, and then my studies as a Ayurvedic health counselor. So certain routine things start really taking root in my life, I would say.
Yeah.
The most important one is my sleep pattern. I think that's, and I've already been I'm an early bird, and I am somebody who likes to go to bed early, but this is very holy to myself.
Yeah.
Much more than anything else.
Absolutely. And it's one of the 3 pillars of health according to Ayurveda. So it is of paramount importance. And I think as well with these habits and as you get exposed to them, you had exposure in the first panchakarma you did, in the cleanse, daily habits, and then your own studies. It's about that awareness. And then once we have the awareness of how I should be living in tune with the circadian rhythms, and then we try it and we feel it in our own body, all that is like cementing these routines and the importance of these routines for our health and well-being, right?
Yep.
I had the opportunity to experience part of my advanced training on the beautiful mountain in Watsonville, California. And I also experienced part of my training online. Both experiences were equally positive. Mount Madonna teachers and staff are knowledgeable, supportive, and go above and beyond to support you and help you succeed in a career of yoga and Ayurveda.
Mount Madonna Institute offers the following stackable certificates and a degree. The Foundation Mini Courses are online courses introducing you to the fundamentals of Ayurveda. The Ayurvedic Educator consists of 6 months of online coursework that prepares a student for a career in offering diet and lifestyle support to healthy individuals. The Ayurvedic Health Counselor is a NAMA-recognized 12-month educational program for a professional career as an Ayurvedic Health Counselor. The Ayurvedic Practitioner is a NAMA-approved 20-month educational program with additional training in pathology and disease management. The Master of Arts degree in Ayurveda is a graduate-level professional training and is accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, WASC. And receive a $200 discount on the Foundation's Ayurvedic Educator and Ayurvedic Health Counselor programs starting in September 2023 by using the code ELEMENTS at checkout. To learn more about these programs and to register, visit mountmadonnainstitute.org or just click on the link in the show notes. And so then you came back in January this year to repeat the cleanse. And so how was this experience now? Second time round, you knew what to expect in regards to structure, in regards to self-care. And of course, there may have been some shifts this time versus the first time. What was your experience like this time?
It was basically the same experience with a little bit, I didn't have to sit down with every recipe. I just kind of had like a certain flow already, I would say. I enjoyed it. This time I also had an imbalance in Vata rather than in Pitta. So that changed certain recipes slightly.
That's right.
And I also have to say I changed my yoga program. And the grounding Vata yoga really, really resonated with me.
Oh, great.
Sometimes I did the full hour in the morning. Sometimes I split up the program between standing and sitting, as you had mentioned in the yoga program. So that just those things help me to say like, okay, now it's a busy day. I have only half an hour in the morning, especially because I have to do homework, a lot of homework and work.
Yes.
So I felt a little more, not rushed, but it was a denser cleanse this time than it was a year ago.
Yes. So the previous year was during COVID and you had more time. And then we need to also let people know you work on European hours.
Exactly.
You need to start work earlier. And as well, it is that understanding of not trying to have things a certain way, knowing how much time you have. And then it's really about quality rather than quantity, I think, in regards the mindfulness practices and so on. And in this time, I know we talked about, because you had a lot going on, I was encouraging you to go out for a walk.
Yes.
And some of your posts in the community, you're talking so poetically about your walks in after lunch, right? Can you share a little bit about that? Because that's something that you introduced.
Yes. Well, usually I'm a very time efficient person, but between exercise and running and chores and throwing the laundry in while buying something, I'm always on my bike, so it's faster.
Yes.
So these walks, I did a lot of walks during COVID as well. And so it was like basically a reintroduction into my life, and I love them. I live in Manhattan in an area in the East Village with lots of community gardens and one park. So it's not just skyscrapers for the ones who don't know. And so it's really nice to just hop into a garden and sit on a bench possibly.
Yeah.
Or just to linger in front of a garden even and just watch a squirrel for a second or a bird. And I mean, I guess nature hadn't really come back, dead of winter basically, but still, just like as you are become aware of your body doing the process of Ayurveda, it's also you realize those fine nuances in nature. And I am a country child. I grew up in the countryside near the edge of a forest. So it's important for me to have that connection again, especially living in a very large city, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I love that, Caro. And I think it's really good to structure the day like that and to
yes,
make time for it. And like I said, that connection to nature, it just shifts your energy, doesn't it?
absolutely. And as a child, I would just zone in on just the bark of the tree, or just a leaf, like almost become microscopic. And this is what a walk in nature can help you do.
Yeah, it's a
That you
mindfulness
just stand
practice.
you stand in front of a leaf and examine it for a
Yeah.
couple minutes. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be long, but just this slowing down. I think slowing down is very important for me, especially because I am doing everything very fast and I live in a very fast paced city and my jobs demand fast pacedness. So I think that's my biggest challenge is to slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And I think it's so powerful to have those moments in nature and to have that respite in the middle of the day and just to take that time out. And I know I appreciated your post in the community about your walks and your connection. I think that was so inspiring. And so now you're studying Ayurveda. You've gone on to do formal studies in Ayurveda. Really love to know like how Ayurveda has changed you and the way you live your life.
I would say, just as I mentioned, I learned to slow down. That's very important. I think it's very important for me being Pitta. I became more focused. I'm still working on it. It's a long process because we have a lot of homework and we have to write. I'm also learned how to be more concise, more precise, and it's strangely enough also something, I mean, it's something I learned from work as well, of course, but it's almost everything becomes more qualitative, as you just said, like everything, you just almost see everything through a loop, like how much is important in life and how should I focus on something that's very important and leave the rest on the wayside. And then, as we mentioned earlier, of course, the daily habits, that's another big thing, even though because the workload is heavier, some of those daily habits are very hard to integrate.
Yes.
But I love my Abhayangas. And maybe I don't do them daily, but a couple a week. And I like that moment. And I combine them with meditation. And I need to definitely have more meditation. I would love to meditate daily. It's not happening at the moment, but there's certain things that are changing within me that might not be fully there. But it's a fascinating journey. And especially because, as a child, we might have had better instincts. And then over the years, as we grow older, we veer away from them. And to just refocus on the sensations within our body, noticing little things, emotions, like these irky feelings. Why did I just feel weird? Why?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yes.
What triggered that? And why is my hip burning or stiff or tight? So that's a fascinating journey. And I feel like I'm in the midst of it, so it might be hard to even talk about it quite correctly, but I might be interesting to revisit that in a couple of years when more things have implemented into the routine.
Yeah. And I feel no matter where we are on our Ayurveda journey is we're all in the midst of it because, as you say, it's a lifelong journey. But I totally agree with you, Karo. It's having that, you talk about childhood and how you would get lost in looking at the bark of a tree but it's bringing that childlike wonder back into life. And you say you may not get time for meditation, but as I said earlier, it's just even being in the park and watching a squirrel for a few minutes and being totally focused on that. That is a meditation in itself. And it's also important, I think, for all of us to let go of any of that perfectionism about how things should be and flowing with our life. And rather going, oh, I can't do my hour of yoga. It's like, no, I'm going to do a quality 10-minute of sun salutations, and that will be good enough for today. And rather than the quantity. And I think having that flexibility to flow with life is such a healthy way to navigate our journey in this life, rather than having things that need to be a certain way or a certain structure. It's like seeing what each day, what life presents. How is my body feeling today? Do I have that stiffness in my hip, or what do I need today that's going to help me, rather than what's on my agenda, in regards to my to-do list. It really is a fascinating journey. I think that's what keeps us so dialed in, besides the fact it's amazing for our health and well-being, but just the curiosity to know that everything in our environment and our life is affecting our health and well-being. That's what keeps this journey just so fascinating, right?
And the connection to nature. I just find it fascinating. I just went out of the city over the weekend and it snowed heavily overnight. And I just had learned about spring cleansing and what the body does in the spring. And just, it was another aha moment between watching this like damp snow coming down and my nose running a little bit heavier these days. And I don't really have a problem with congestion, but I've noticed that. And I was like, oh, maybe I do blow my nose more often in spring. Interesting. So this connection, nature, your own body, it's just fascinating.
It is how the elements that shift with the seasons or shift with a snowstorm is affecting the elements in our body and causing them to fluctuate too. It is. Yeah. And that's what is amazing to know, that we're in this relationship with nature and it's constantly changing. We're constantly changing. And so every day just tuning in. So Karo, thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. And before we finish up here, if there's anything else you'd like to share or any advice you'd like to give to the listener.
Sure. I think it's very important. In my journey, I noticed that right now that everybody of my fellow students, I noticed that everybody has a vice or could do better with something, and not to be too hard on yourself. That you ate maybe 2 slices of chocolate cake, or you stayed up dancing and drinking alcohol till 3 a.m. Whatever your vice might be, it's as long as I think we should not do anything with a sense of guilt. We should at least enjoy it at that moment. And we should go back as soon as possible to give our body a break. But I think it's very important to just not be so hard on ourselves. Be soft, be in connection with our body, and maybe do a khichdi day or a kama day after a wild party weekend, or overeating at a wedding or anything like that. Yeah. And just start slow. And then I would also say, for anybody who does not cook, because that comes natural to me, just start going to a local farmer's market and just look at a carrot, zone in on what just came out, just be aware of what is in season, and then just grab one thing that maybe inspires you. Maybe it's a carrot or an eggplant, whatever the season is, and just experiment with that. So you don't have to be a chef right away. Just start slow and be kind to yourself. So I think that's my giveaway.
Lovely. I love that advice. And I agree. I think there is a tendency for us wanting to do things a certain way and be perfect and maybe a little bit rigid about these things that we learn. But I'm a big believer in 80-20. And,
Yes.
Food is there to be enjoyed when you're out with friends, and let loose and let go of the rules and rigidity. And like you said, the next day, maybe then you make a pot of khichdi and you have some, a mini cleanse day. But that's it. We have to enjoy life. And if we're too rigid, as I always say, that in itself can cause stress and inflammation in the body. So that's a problem.
Absolutely.
It's all about going with the flow, seeing how you're feeling day to day. And
absolutely.
At first when we learn Ayurveda, it can seem like a lot, but it is simple at its essence. It really is a simple science at its essence. It's just a deep science. So it's fascinating. And Karo, thank you. I loved your journey of getting a gift of these books back in the 90s, going on this Panchakarma journey with your mom and your sister, and then going on your journey of your own cleansing and now your own educational journey and studying Ayurveda. It's just beautiful. And it's lovely to hear that. And
see, sometimes it takes some decades to start implementing Ayurveda into your life, but that's okay too.
You get little tidbits along the way, and it'll come when it's right into your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But great advice. And Karo, thank you for sharing and for taking the time to talk to me today. I truly appreciate it. So it was a pleasure to chat with you.
It was my pleasure as well, Colette. Thank you so much. All right,
my dear. Well, take good care of yourself, and happy springtime in New York City.
Thank you. Happy springtime in Europe.
Mount Madonna is not only a place for me, it is my family.
Thanks again to Mount Madonna Institute for sponsoring this episode today. And to learn more, please visit mountmadonnainstitute.org. And don't forget about the $200 discount I mentioned earlier on the 3 programs starting in September 2023. Check out all the details in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Karo. And if you would like to do your own Digestive Reset Cleanse with me, well, I have a discounted group cleanse starting April 21st, 2023. And if that date doesn't work for you, you can choose a private cleanse and set your own dates. Both cleanse structures are the same. They both come with a 90-minute consultation so that I can tailor the cleanse to you and your lifestyle. And the group cleanse comes with group support in a private forum. The private cleanse, you get me one-on-one for support. So you can check out all those details by clicking on the link in the show notes, or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. For the discounted group cleanse starting April 21st, go to the events tab. And if you want to book a private cleanse, go to the programs page. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.